When I go through your bio, there's kind of a couple of gaps in that I see that you were born in Chicago and sort of grew up in Chicago, but you graduated high school in Los Angeles. When did you leave Chicago?
My mother always wanted to move to LA. My father was a dentist and couldn't do that. And he finally decided that that would be a good idea that he was getting on. And at the age of about, I was 15 and a half when we moved from Chicago to LA.
So you were in Chicago for the big boom of Chicago blues, am I right?
Yeah, well, I guess. I don't think I was really aware of it because I was too young, but certainly, as I think I've said in various interviews, the first real blues or R&B thing that got me was G by the Crows. And from that point on, I started listening to old blues and all kinds of stuff.
And then what age was it that you moved to England from Los Angeles?
In my early 20s, which was owned by an English guy who kept telling me how wonderful England was. And I thought, here I am in my, what the rest of the world is like before life passes me by. So I said, I told Phil that I'll be gone for 5 weeks. So I actually had a 4-record deal with Era Records. And I said, I'll be back in 5 weeks. Of course, I stayed for 17 years. So I went, and bottom line, I didn't have a whole lot of money. And I if I could make a few bucks. And my friend Nick Benet, who was in our capital, I told him about it. He said, here, take my acetates and tell him you did them. Because at that point, I had done a couple of things, and I'd gotten some action and some chart action here in LA, but to London and to another contact of mine in LA, to somebody in London, he made an appointment for me with Dick Rowe at Decca, and I walked in, and I thought, what the hell, I'm going to be back in 5 weeks, so I can be as brash as I like. And I was. I said, I'm an independent producer, and I'm here for a short time. I'd like to work for a couple of weeks, and yada, yada, yada. And here's what I just did. And I gave him the 2 acetates that Mick gave me. One was Revolve, the other was the Beach Boys. And Dick Rose said, you start today. So by the time they found out it was all bullshit, I had a hit, so I stayed.
Right. And of course, your discography is just top notch. It's music that for generations, it still means a lot today.
Thank you for that. And I'm obviously very pleased that the stuff still sounds as good today as it did then, and that it's still getting played today. And I'm pleased to say that my royalties keep rolling in. It's a pleasure to have done that, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm hoping that music is crept back into the charts. And because of that, I've gone back into the studio and I'm doing some new things. So I'm looking forward to continuing that in a big way.
And your discography does have a band that I really liked in the 90s called Nancyboy. How did you wind up working with them?
Because Donovan Jr. Approached me and asked if I would do them. I really liked the band a lot, and I liked him a lot. And I said, yeah, absolutely, I will do that. And it never got the promotion that it should have gotten, I think, because it was a damn good LP that I did.
And when I look at the discography, though, obviously you first see the Kinks and the Who and the Creation and all that, and then you see Nancyboy. Were you sought out in the heyday of LA's metal scene at all?
LA's metal scene? No, I was in England at the time, so no. The answer is no. I mean, I came back from trips, but I didn't do anything in LA for several years. Honestly, I probably should have come back about 5 years before I did, because I was, quite frankly, getting bored, and I had been working a lot, as you can see from my discography. I didn't realize how much time I spent in the studio, and it was time to go home. And the weather never really did it for me there. I got very used to being in California. And as I said, I think I should have done it 5 years earlier.
One of the things that impresses me about your career is that you owned masters early on. How did you know to do such a thing? Did somebody tell you, hey man, you should own your masters?
Well, I was figured from the get-go that, yeah, ownership is what it's all about. And I mean, I thought I had a future. I owned stuff. And I was doing things that resonated with the public for a long time that it would be valuable. So by all means, I also did acquire a very good lawyer who was Mario Shat, who was very into owning stuff. So because that's what I'm doing. I think that's probably how it came about.
So if somebody says, hey, Shel, what are you working on these days? And keep in mind that a lot of your peers would just coast on the fact that they did some of the biggest records ever. You're not. So can you tell me what's keeping you busy at the moment?
I mean, I have not done anything I hadn't done it in the last 2 years because of the fact that rap and hip hop was predominant. And I don't consider rap as music. I mean, I'm quite happy to call it street poetry or urban poetry, but music it is not, and I didn't really want to do anything. Now that it's crept back into the charts and starting, I think it's probably fair to say with Billie Eilish and her brother in particular, I have always been involved with licensing stuff, the creation in particular, which I kind of basically started with that. I've had over the years more than 30 commercials that I've done, and I mean even currently, the making time was used for Audi, and another of my creation tracks through my eyes is in the new Rambo film. Chad and Jeremy track was used by Coors Light beer, and so I started getting tied up with a licensing firm there. I was doing some made things that I created. I got a guy that actually I recorded who is a kind of a terrific modern engineer with digital, and he and I have been working together on creating specific tracks for product. And actually, I was with a licensed company that unfortunately went through takeovers, and the people that I was working with left. So that was the end of that, finding another licensing company.
I didn't realize that you played such an integral role in the licensing beyond the production of all these things. We talked about the fact that you own the masters, and then you also played such a role in licensing the stuff out. When did you start to see that it was normal to be using real songs in commercials and not just work for hire commercial jingles?
Well, I mean, early on, when anyone called Demon, who were one of the kind of, I guess, beginners in licensing, and they had one guy in particular who was very good at mixing stuff, and so I was with them for several years. Starting with the creation. In fact, I eventually sold creation catalog to them before I left. Actually, I left, I should say. But they were good at pricing the stuff for me, and it was, there's all kinds of stuff, and then there's a couple of films.
Moving on here, because some of this is going up in the Jewish Journal. Were you bar mitzvahed? Was that part of your early life?
I am not religious. My parents are not religious. My bar mitzvah was a party. Period. End of statement. Like today on the fountain pen, and all that. That was strictly a party. That's all.
Got it. And in your early days, did you encounter a lot of other record producers who were Jewish?
I think a lot of them have been Jewish throughout the years. I mean, I was in the same high school as good old Phil Spector, who's Jewish, unfortunately. And certainly, the record business in general has been controlled by Jews from the get-go. So I think what I'm trying to say is that I never really thought about it as a way in. It's just that I did what I did, and that worked out. And I obviously knew that there are tons of other Jews.
So being mindful of your time here, Shel, any last words for the kids?
for people growing up. No, I will not say don't go into the music business, because if that's your passion, then by all means follow it and do the best you can. And the only other advice I have is that if you realize at some point that you're really not up for it, then go somewhere else.
Paltrocast.